Well, hey guys, I'm really excited for today's video. I'm going to be showing you exactly how much product you should be using, whether it be your eye cream, your moisturizer, your sunscreen, your serum, your toner. I'm going to show you exactly how much volume you should be using. That way you don't end up wasting product unnecessarily, using too much of it. Before getting into the video, give it a thumbs up if you like skincare content from a board certified dermatologist. And I'd like to give a shout out to today's video sponsor, Peak Tea. Peak Tea is my go-to for high quality tea. I originally found them years ago and continue to go back to them time and time again because the quality is always on point. They use this cutting edge cold extraction technology to make these concentrated tea crystals packed with antioxidants that dissolve in a matter of seconds in either warm or cool water, so you can have a hot tea or a cold tea in a matter of seconds with no prep. Tastes delicious. They have over 20 different high quality teas, something for everyone. Caffeinated teas and herbal non-caffeinated teas. Their teas are triple screened to ensure there are no contaminants. There are no sugars added. They have really great customer service and they offer a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. So if you're not satisfied, you can get your money back. Let me recommend to you some of my absolute favorites. First of all, the Sun Goddess Matcha, 100% organic ceremonial grade matcha tea. And it's not clumpy, very smooth, easy to prepare, tastes delicious, and their matcha is shaded longer. This allows for enriched levels of L-theanine, which has a calming effect. Love matcha tea. Gives you that little pep in your step without the jitters of getting another cup of coffee or, God forbid, an energy drink. Their electric turmeric tea, love it, especially this time of year. It makes a fantastic turmeric latte. You can just add in your favorite milk. I love it with almond milk, or you can have it as is plain. It's made from fermented Okinawan turmeric, which is packed with curcumins that are anti-inflammatory. I have it a lot, especially in the fall months. I just love that bright color. About a year ago, I was on their site and I discovered their fermented pu'er teas. They have a black and green one from trees that are over 250 years old. The fermentation process further enriches for antioxidants, which are anti-inflammatory. They taste delicious as well. Make fantastic iced tea, as a side note. Then at nighttime, two of my favorites to have after a meal especially are 10 out of 10, the ginger digestion elixir. Rich with gingerol, helps with digestion, plus it tastes delicious. I love to have it around the holidays too. It kind of gives you that ginger feel of all the delicious baked goods. And the hibiscus beauty elixir is also delicious. Has a nice vibrant color to it, packed with vitamin C, which is helpful for healthy collagen production in the skin, giving you that radiant glow. Many of you have shared with me in the comments that you have come to love Peak Tea as much as I do, and that makes me happy. But if you haven't tried it yet, exciting news, Peak has reactivated my discount code, Dr. Dre, which will get you 5% off site-wide, and you can get a free sampler pack while supplies last. So click the link in my description box, take advantage of it, use my code, and like I said, they taste delicious and they make great gifts. When it comes to skincare, oftentimes, with the exception of sunscreen, less is more. Using too much product doesn't get you any further in life. It just wastes the product, and if anything, can lead to more irritation. However, it's very challenging to know exactly how much product you need. And different products, they have different consistencies. Maybe they spread in a certain way. How much do you actually need? A lot of times you'll be given vague instructions on the part of the manufacturer, or they'll just leave out conveniently how much you actually should use on the application instructions. Let's start out with cleansing oils and cleansing balms, because it's going to be roughly the same volume between the two products that you're going to need. What is the point of these products? They're spread on the surface of the skin to disrupt the film of cosmetic residue, water-resistant sunscreen. And one of the most common complaints I get from people who use these products is that they aggravate acne. It's also an overriding concern that a lot of people have. Will using an oil cleanser or cleansing balm break me out? It shouldn't, provided it's washed off in its entirety, which should be relatively straightforward unless you use heaping amounts of it. That could potentially leave behind some residue of the oil cleanser, and that could actually potentially irritate your skin. So I do think that is one reason why people fail when it comes to oil cleansing or using a cleansing balm. So how much exactly do you need? Well, I'm going to show you here in the palm of my hand exactly how much of a cleansing oil you're going to need. It's roughly the size of a penny. If anything, err on the side of caution and use a little bit less. You can always add in a little bit more, but you're not going to be able to take away. Apply the product to your skin while it's dry and massage it in a circular fashion. And a tip that I have for you guys is when you're trying to get a sense of how much product to use, while you're applying it, close your eyes. I find that if you close your eyes and you're massaging it in, you have a better sense of the product going over your skin. It helps you with your awareness of the distribution of the product onto the surface of your skin. You have a better sense of it, where it's going, where it's being applied, where it's not being applied. Whereas if you open your eyes and you're distracted, you pay less attention, you're not as aware. So do that, and if you find that it's not spreading onto the surface of the skin well, you can always add a little bit more. But as you can see here, I mean, just that small amount of a cleansing oil, it's easy to spread over the surface of my face, across my eyelids. It's easy to break up the mascara. And then the next step, of course, is going to be using a cleanser. So that's how much of a cleansing oil or a cleansing balm you need. And again, if you find that you're not getting quite good spread, you can always use a little bit more. I do suggest coming in with a second cleanser to wash that off in its entirety. But how much of an actual facial cleanser do you need? You actually need a little bit less volume from a facial cleanser. Why? Well, you're going to add water here, and that water is going to help create lather that's going to help distribute the product onto the surface of the skin. So you actually need a little bit less of an actual facial cleanser than you did your cleansing oil or your cleansing balm. One pump, which is roughly a dime-sized amount of a cleanser. And when it comes to a cleanser, I am guilty of using too much volume from facial cleansers. I do it out of bad habit. And yes, of course, you're gonna rinse this off. It shouldn't stay on the skin, but that excessive volume of cleanser, it can end up causing some eyelid irritation for you. The skin on the eyelid is much thinner, and using that large volume of cleanser, even if it's the mildest, gentlest cleanser, it can be excessive, too much, and if anything, again, you do end up wasting it. So you really only need roughly a dime, which is smaller than a penny. Start out small. You can always add a little bit more if you find that you're not getting decent enough spread. You'd be surprised of how small of a volume you actually can get away with in comparison to perhaps what you are used to using with your facial cleanser. What about a toner or an essence? Now, these are products I don't often use in my routine, but I have used them in the past. I reviewed many of them on this channel. They often contain ingredients that are hydrating and or perhaps rich in antioxidants that may help with barrier repair and reducing oxidative stress in the skin. But how the heck do you apply these? They can be admittedly very unwieldy because they are a liquid. They slip out of your hands pretty easily. A lot of people like applying these to a cotton round, reusable cotton pad type of applicator and patting it in. The only issue there is that you're going to end up wasting some product as it's left behind in the pad, cotton round, what have you. So my recommendation is to pour a little bit in the palm of your hand. You need roughly a quarter-sized amount. Then I suggest taking your other hand and your fingertips and using the fingertips to smear that liquid onto all sides of the face, under the nose, on the nose, the bridge of the nose, the forehead, the chin area. Take it out to the sides of your face and then take it down your neck. Get the majority of it onto your face from your palm. The reason I suggest taking it onto your fingertips and spreading it on is that you will start to get a more even film of this product onto these types of products onto your face than if you try and splash patted on. You're going to get more even distribution onto the surface of the skin, and you're not going to lose any product. Now, a lot of people question, should you be rubbing or should you be patting? In my opinion, it is better to rub these in a circular fashion. Why? Well, the skin is not just a flat sheet. It's this 3D structure. There are hills and valleys to your skin. If you just pat the product in, you're not really getting it as well into those grooves and crevices. So a circular motion, in my opinion, is better. This is not rooted in hard science other than just my knowledge of the anatomy of the skin, and of course taking it to your neck. Now, there are a lot of people who promote this idea that you should be massaging these products into the neck in an upward fashion. Point me to a study that says that does anything, and I'll give it to you. It is, more, I guess you might say, a holistic way of doing things. I don't do it that way. You can do it that way if you want. It's not right or wrong to do it that way. Importantly though, depending on the toner or essence that you are using, if it is intended to smooth out the skin, provide some gentle exfoliation, you may want to avoid around the eyes and around the nose area and around the mouth, as these areas can be more sensitive and more prone to irritation. Some people will actually decant a bit into a spray bottle and mist it onto their face. In theory, that is, would allow for a good application. I kind of see the rationale there. However, if your eyelids are sensitive to the product, it could cause some irritation. And honestly, I don't know how stable products are when you decant them into a different container. I have heard from cosmetic chemists that that's not the best approach. If you're just doing it each time, I imagine it's okay, but I can't say for sure. And you'll start to find that when you do it this way, especially if you close your eyes while you apply it and you can feel the skin being coated better when you're more in tune to how you're applying it, I think you will find that all along you have just been using way too much. The terminology toner and essence, they're kind of a broad category of liquid-based products, and the ingredients vary a lot. So pay attention to the instructions that come with any product. If they explicitly tell you, don't put it around the eyes, then you're going to want to be more careful. All right, next is serums. Serums tend to be thicker in consistency in comparison to a toner or an essence, but they are still very thin, very watery. Serums are often touted as being more concentrated, more potent, and that you only need a little bit. However, in my experience trying many serums, I find that they are very variable in terms of how concentrated they are and basically how much product you need. So pay attention to the instructions. For example, most serums often tell you to apply 2 to 3 drops. Perfect. Stick to that. That is more than adequate to get good coverage of your face and neck with a serum given its viscosity and whatnot. That's actually more than enough. However, other serums may be a different consistency and they instruct you to use more. For example, they may instruct you to use an entire dropper full of product each time. If you're doing a product that instructs you to use 2 to 3 drops, I happen to find that 3 drops is perfect for the face and neck. And I suggest applying the 3 drops to the back of your hand and then take 1 drop with the opposite finger, get it on to massage it in a circular fashion to 1/2 of your face, then take the 2nd drop and distribute it to the other half of your face, and then finally take the 3rd drop and take it down to your neck. And then, again, just massage things in a circular fashion. Again, close your eyes, gives you a better sense of where product is going. In my experience, just a better awareness. And after you do that, then rub the backs of your hands together. That way that leftover residue on the backs of your hands, you end up treating both of the hands as well, not wasting any product. You will be surprised. I see people doing their skincare routines on social media, and most people that I observe use a lot of serum volume, and you don't need that. And if the serum truly is more concentrated, more potent, as many serums claim to be, you could certainly end up really causing some irritation by using too much, and you may need to back down. For example, I find that a lot of vitamin C serums are very irritating for me, and if I use a drop more, if I use 4 drops, they become very irritating. What about eye creams? That's another type of product I typically don't use, although recently I tried and reviewed several eye creams for you guys, so hopefully you watch those if you're an eye cream person. But how much eye cream do you need? This is another product where I find not only do consumers sometimes use a little bit too much, but I find that it's tricky because a lot of eye cream dispensers put out too much product. They put out like more or less half a pea. You need a rice grain. It may vary a bit depending on the product and its consistency and how well it spreads. Rice grain, perfect for both eyes. Especially if you are only doing the under eye area, you shouldn't need more than an arboreal rice grain, very short. And again, get a sense of the product spread. You may need a little bit more to get good spread. If you find that you're having to really, pull, then probably need a little bit more perhaps. But you may find that you have just been using, frankly, too much. Now, this is something that people feel very strongly about in terms of applying eye creams. Many people strongly advocate that you should use like your ring finger to pat it in because you're going to get a lighter pressure, and if you press too hard, well, it could contribute to wrinkles. I don't know to what extent that is actually true, and for me personally, I find that there is no difference in the pressure with tapping with any, regardless of the finger. Maybe it's, because of all the typing, but I find that I press just as hard regardless of the finger. If you want to apply less pressure, if you're concerned about the pressure that you apply, rather than focus on the finger, I think they recommend the ring finger, rather than that, use your non-dominant hand. You're going to press less forcefully with your non-dominant hand. So if you're right-handed, apply your eye creams with your left hand. This is not something that I really think about. I've never been taught that as a dermatologist. I've never seen any evidence that applying the eye cream in any firm manner makes a difference. But I guess, it makes sense. It doesn't hurt to apply it more gently. Of course, if you are pounding very firmly with a hammer, that's not a good thing either, but most people don't apply their eye creams with a hammer. So all that to say, there's no right or wrong way in terms of the finger that you use. If you want to do the ring finger method, that's fine. But for me personally, I don't see that that does anything different because I tend to press equal with all my fingers in terms of pressure and firmness. With eyelid skin, however, it is very thin and very delicate, so tapping is okay around the eyelids as opposed to rubbing. But if you're concerned about the tugging and rubbing that can bring in more fluid under the eyes, that makes some sense to avoid and to just tap in those areas. What about moisturizer? This is another product that I am guilty of using too much volume. You really should only need anywhere between a dime and a nickel-sized dollop, which I'll show you here so you can get a sense of how much that is. And some packaging actually puts out too much. When we're talking about just the face and neck, nickel to dime sized amount to spread a nice film on the surface of the skin. Some people like to use facial oils. I do not. Facial oils, depending on the type of oil, can contain antioxidants, which may help with combating oxidative stress. They give the skin a nice kind of glow. They're emollients. They soften rough skin, but they don't really seal in moisture, and as well as a moisturizer. So I don't use them. Regardless, how much should you use? Just 2 to 3 drops of the oil should be more than adequate to spread to the face and on the neck. The most important part of your skincare routine is your sunscreen, and this is the exception here in that the more is better. Applying more is better. Most people under apply sunscreen. When you get a sunscreen, it's going to come with an SPF on it. The number gives you a sense of how well that product is going to protect you against a sunburn. But here's the thing, that SPF number is determined on human participants by applying the product to their skin at a density of 2 milligrams per centimeter squared, which actually is pretty thick. Most people do not apply that much. So how much sunscreen do you need to apply to the face, neck, and ears to really reach that density? It ends up being about half a teaspoon if you measure it out. A quarter of a teaspoon to the face and ears, and a quarter of a teaspoon to the neck. And if you're not used to applying sunscreen or you're new to sunscreen, I do suggest getting yourself a measuring spoon, measuring it out so that you have a sense of exactly how much you really need, because most people underestimate it. So I'm showing you here exactly how much it is, and for me, I'm not perfect, but I do feel like without using the spoon, I do get to the amount that you need, with most sunscreens, unless I'm really in a hurry. Then I may under apply unbeknownst to me. I don't measure it out every time. That is a key thing though, if I am in a hurry. So one study actually showed that taking your time to put on sunscreen, making time to do it and not rushing through it, you're more likely to get the right amount on the surface of the skin, and you're more likely to not skip any areas. So make sure that you're covering not only your cheek area, but also the sides of your face, your upper lip, your forehead, your ears. Now, a question I often get is, do I need to reapply that half a teaspoon worth whenever I reapply? Short answer, probably not that much. Why? Because one of the main reasons to reapply is that some of the sunscreen gets rubbed off. But you're not going to be rubbing off all the sunscreen in total, so do you actually need to come in again with another full half teaspoon amount to the face and neck? Probably not. You're going to need to use your best judgment though, depending on what it is that's going on. If you are reapplying because you have been outdoors and you just got out of the pool, then you're definitely going to want to err on the side of more. But if you're sitting at a picnic table, reading a book, and it's cool, you're not sweating, well then, you probably don't need to reapply a full half teaspoon amount. But if you're sitting at a picnic table reading a book and your allergies are flaring up and you find that you're constantly rubbing your nose with a Kleenex, well then you're going to want to focus reapplying more sunscreen to your nose area. So use your best judgment. Reapplying sunscreen is something that you want to do if you're going to be outside. That's definitely where you need to really focus on reapplying if you're going to be outside for a prolonged period of time. And you're also, of course, not going to just rely on sunscreen for your sun protection when you are outdoors for a prolonged time. You're going to want to wear a hat, sunglasses, seek out shade, use a multi-pronged approach. But when it comes specifically to the reapplying piece, do you need to reapply that full half teaspoon amount? If you want to, great, but is it realistic? No. And is it necessary? Probably not, because the reality is you're not going to have rubbed off all that sunscreen. All right, you guys, that is roughly how much volume of skincare products you need to not be wasting the product, not be putting yourself at undue risk for excessive irritation. I hope this was helpful to you all. Don't forget to check out Peak Tea. Save yourself 5% using my code, link in the description box. Thank you, Peak, for sponsoring today's video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.